Baseball's batting average metric is explained. The Fall Classic is officially here, and the NBA's regular season's biggest storylines you should know is discussed. That's coming up next. Let's go. It's the Lurks Lessons Show, your weekly deep dive into the most impactful stories from the professional sporting leagues around the country. We'll analyze, discuss, and uncover the lessons they offer. Let's dive in. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. My name is Jeff Lurkey, and today we are going over some brackets. We got 3 of them, in fact, but I don't know about you, but I've been very excited on how the World Series has just kind of played out. Like the ALCS last night was electric. Congratulations to the Toronto Blue Jays of making it to the Fall Classic, your first appearance since 1994. And with the NBA tipping off tonight and the MLS decision day was this past weekend, like there's a lot to get into. But first, I want to talk to you about the batting average metric. Okay, so last week we talked about pitching of ERA, and I wanted to focus on the offensive side of the ball, and that is batting average. Okay, so what is batting average? Batting average is dividing a player's hits by their total at-bats. Okay, very simple, not as maybe it was a little difficult with ERA last week, but batting average is pretty simple. If I go up to the plate 4 times and I get 1 hit, 1 divided by 4 is 25%. Okay. Now, what's interesting is like how it is read. So it's not read like 0.25. It's actually 3 decimal spots. So it would be 250, and it wouldn't be pronounced or spoken like 0.250. It would be 250 is my batting average, at least at that particular sequence. Okay. So that's just kind of like the lay of the land when it comes to it. On top of that, what is not calculated in the batting average is hit by pitch or walks. Okay. It's literally consisting of hits. So if I hit a single, double, triple, or even a home run, that is considered part of the batting average. Okay. So to kind of give you like an example of what a good batting average is, because again, we always want to make sure we have a baseline of like, okay, is this good or bad, right? Let's say a player has 145 hits at 500 at-bats. So 145 divided by 500, that will give you a 0.290 or a 290 batting average. Is that good or bad? Well, if you are around 270, that's pretty good, okay? You're consistent. It's usually 1 out of 4 at-bats or 2 out of 5 at-bats, something like that around that category, okay? If it's below 220, that's usually a poor batting average. And again, going off the cuff here, like you'll see some pitchers in the American League specifically who don't bat as often as pitchers do in the National League, because National League pitchers do bat in the lineup, whereas American League doesn't. They usually have a lower batting average just because they hardly see the plate. So their batting average is going to be very, very poor. Now, what is good or what is excellent? Anything above 300. Like if you see a batting average in 300 or above, you know, like, wow, that's very, very good. You're going at least 2 out of 4 or 3 out of 4 at bats. That's a very, very good batting average. Okay. Now, based off of all of that, it's sometimes kind of hard to really determine the offensive player's efficiency when it comes to a batting average alone. So there have been modern statistics that have been thrown into play called on-base percentage and slugging percentage. And that's where, like I shared earlier, singles, doubles, triples, and home runs are all created equally in the batting average metric, okay? Clearly, if you have somebody that is really good at hitting home runs or has a very strong power at the plate, that's a more desirable player that you want on your offense, right? So that's where slugging percentage comes into play, where they kind of favor a higher percentage in those categories would favor triples or home runs. Whereas on base percentage is more of like, okay, I don't care if you hit home runs. I just need you to get on base. So things like walks or how a batter gets even on base, that's where that metric comes into play. So I shared this last week on how baseball has so many different metrics that they calculate in order to figure out how to proceed forward. This is part of that conversation, okay? So that's where you look at batting average. It's kind of like the cream of the crop of seeing an offensive players hitting. Then you go into slugging percentage, on base percentage, and there's also a thing called OPS, which is on base percentage, slugging percentage combined. Okay, we're not going to go into those particular categories. I just want you to focus on batting average, because when you go into watching the World Series, which I highly recommend, batting average would be the first thing I want you to look at to fully understand of an offensive player coming to the plate. Just like we talked about last week, when a pitcher comes to the mound, what's their ERA? Okay, those are like the low-hanging fruit metrics that you should be paying attention to in order to fully appreciate what you're about to see as the pitch is thrown. Okay, now, like last week, we talked about Tarek Skubal with the ERA. I wanted to focus on a player that is about their batting average. Okay, and this player is essentially a unicorn, a generational talent that we have not seen in a very, very long time, if ever. And this dude's name is Shohei Ohtani. Now, I've seen recently some of the baseball guide to baseball video comments where people are like, Shohei Ohtani brought me here because he's made some massive, massive news in his Game 4 performance in the NLCS last week, where the Dodgers took out the Milwaukee Brewers 4-0. Shohei Ohtani, first of all, his batting average for 2025 is 282. Okay, that's 172 hits with 611 at-bats. That's his statistics when it comes to his batting average, okay? What he did in Game 4 of the NLCS, he went 3 for 4, had 3 hits. All 3 of those hits were home runs, okay? His 4th at-bat, or one of those at-bats, was a walk, so he still got on base, all right? What makes this so unique is that Shohei Ohtani is actually a pitcher. And as I shared before, the National League, where the Dodgers play in, that pitcher also bats, okay? He struck out 10 batters that game in 6 innings, gave up 2 runs, was it? Let me look at my notes. No, not 2 runs. He gave up 2 hits and walked 3 batters, but had 10 strikeouts. Like, I can't express into words how unique that is. Like, I highly recommend going and watching some of the highlights that you would literally hear the commentators say, especially after his second, even third home run, they're just going berserk and bananas. And it's like, what are we witnessing here? Like, it was such an historic performance that, I mean, the dude's 31. He is a 3-time MVP of the league. Like, the dude is incredible, and it seems like he's not slowing down. So yeah, I think that's a great way to segue into the postseason with the World Series finally here. Now, as you know, I was hoping for a Seattle and Milwaukee matchup, just because, again, Seattle, they've never been to the World Series, and Milwaukee's only been there once back in the 80s. So it's like I was cheering for the teams that didn't have a big bank, but also didn't see the World Series that much, okay? That didn't happen. And give credit where credit's due. Like, the Dodgers overmatched the Brewers, swept them in 4 games. And the Blue Jays, my goodness, the Blue Jays, they were down 2-0. Tied it up at 2, then they were down 3-2, and then won back-to-back games to go into the Fall Classic. And congratulations to the Blue Jays. I mean, George Springer's bottom of the 7th home run to put the Blue Jays up 4-3. I mean, they were down 3-1 at that point, so it was like electric, and I feel that the entire country of Canada is celebrating right now because their Jays are back in the Fall Classic since '94, where they won back-to-back World Series. So congratulations to them. And I really think it's going to be a great series, as I will kind of like lay everything out to you on how this is a very, very good matchup to watch. If the Mariners did make it, I would still think they would put up a good fight, but these two teams are actually very well matched that I hope it goes to 7 games. Now, how this format is going to work is it's going to be a 2-3-2 format, okay? What that means is 2 games are going to be hosted by the Blue Jays. They actually have 1 extra win over the Dodgers in the regular season, so they get home field advantage. So it'll be 2 games in Toronto and then 3 games in Los Angeles. And then if it happens to go all 7 games, it will be 2 in Toronto again, okay? So I want to give you a couple of things to take note on, and also which players to take notes on when you watch the World Series, which, again, I highly recommend. So focusing on the Major League Baseball's offensive rankings for both teams, as we open the show up with batting average, the scoring where both teams rank. Toronto is ranked 4th in the league. The Dodgers are ranked 2nd in scoring at large. Batting average, Toronto is actually ranked 1st, where the Dodgers is ranked 6th. And then finally, OPS, which was on base plus slugging percentage, which we briefly talked about earlier. That essentially means like power and getting on base as best as possible. Toronto is ranked 3rd over the Dodgers ranked 5th. Regardless, in those 3 categories, both teams are ranked in the top 6. So to see that these 2 offensive teams are going at it, it's going to be very, very exciting. Okay. Now we talked about Shohei Ohtani, about he's the one that you definitely want to watch for the Blue Jays. It's going to be fun to watch him. And I'm going to try to watch every single game as I can. Because again, he is a unicorn. All right. He's a 5-time All-Star. Like I shared earlier, he's a 3-time MVP of the league. The dude is on another level. Okay. Toronto has another dude that's very, very good as well. His name is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Okay. This dude is very, very strong when it comes to offensive hitting. All right. And he's also a 5-time All-Star. Just want to throw that out there. In the last 10 games, essentially his entire postseason, in his 10 games at bat, he has had 39 at bats. 18 of those are hits, which, doing the math, 18 divided by 39, you get 462 batting average. 462. We said anything above 300 is great. This dude's hitting 462 in the postseason right now. What? What? So, just, even though the Mariners didn't make it, and again, the Mariners, I feel so bad for you guys. I mean, you were right there. Like, 1 game away of making franchise history. That's just gotta hurt. That hurts. Whereas Milwaukee, like, you were outmatched, you got swept. Okay, lick your wounds, go into the next season. Whereas, like, this is going to sting a little bit for the Mariners. But I preface that to say, this matchup, the Dodgers against the Blue Jays, you look at the offensive scoring, like, this is going to be a fun and exciting World Series. And I hope it goes to 7 games. If it only goes to 4 games and it gets swept, or even 4-1 in 5 games, I would be very disappointed. And you should be too, because that would not be fun. Okay. So, batting average is explained. So when you watch the World Series, that's one thing I want you to take note of. Okay. So yeah, Fall Classic is here. Game 1 is this Friday in Toronto. Can't wait. But what I really can't wait, which happens tonight, is the NBA season tips off, specifically on NBC. Or if you have Peacock, it's on Peacock. All right. That's why I'm supporting the old logo today. I bought this hat about 4 or 5 months ago. So I was not planning on wearing it today, but I was like, wait, I got the old hat on. Yeah, let's rock with that. So, the Houston Rockets are playing at the Oklahoma City Thunder, as they are the defending champs. They do that every year with the NBA, where the first game of the season is honored by giving the team who won last year. So that's that. And then the Warriors play the Lakers at 10 p.m. tonight. That first game is at 7:30 tonight. So super excited. I'm going to give you 4 storylines that I want you to focus on when you pay attention to the NBA this year, okay? The first one is about the Rockets that I just mentioned earlier. They were part of the largest trade in NBA history last July. Okay, on July 6th, 7 teams traded among 13 players. Okay, the Rockets traded Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green to get Kevin Durant. Why is that important? Well, I'm going to show you on screen the second bracket. This is last year's playoff run, and I'll actually go ahead and make it larger so that way you can see it. You can see on the bottom left of the bracket is the Rockets were ranked second, or they got the second seed, but lost to the Golden State Warriors, who upset them. Okay. Now, the Rockets, I feel, are a young team. And this trade that they did with the other teams in the league, I'm not going to list them all. Getting Kevin Durant is a huge deal. I think with Kevin, he is a 2-time NBA champion. He won twice with the Warriors. He did go to the Phoenix Suns, and it just didn't work out, and which is a huge letdown. That franchise just needs some love. But acquiring Durant, I feel, puts the Rockets in another level that they desperately need. They have a very strong young core group of guys, but they also have another NBA champion in Fred VanVleet running the show too at the point guard. If you remember him, he won with the Toronto Raptors, who beat Kevin Durant's Warriors for that championship. So bringing Durant over, he's going out the tail end of his career, but I feel that this is going to be a really good marriage with that squad to really take it to the next level. And I really, that's where I want you to take note of is like, will Durant fit in this new system that he's going to play with? And will the Rockets actually go farther than the first round where they got bounced out last year? Now, the Rockets have won multiple championships in the past, but recently during the James Harden years, they only got to the Eastern Conference or Western Conference Finals and lost to the Warriors during their dynasty run. Okay, so they haven't really been back since, and I feel that this trade will definitely help them get there at least. We'll see what happens. The second storyline is what we talked in the very first episode of the year, and that is the Cooper Flagg / Luka Doncic trade, where Doncic went to the Lakers. The Mavericks got the first pick of the draft, and Cooper Flagg's rookie season. Okay, so keep that in mind. I'm not going to dive into that on this episode, but that's one. And the last point I want to bring to you that I want you to pay attention to is the Indiana Pacers. As you can see on the graph here or on the bracket, like they were the 4th seed. They made it all the way to the NBA Finals. They were 1 game away from winning their first NBA championship in league history, but they lost to the Thunder in 7 games. So out of that experience, they lost their all-star guard, Tyrese Halliburton, for the entire year. He had sustained a terrible leg injury during Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And they lost Miles Turner, who has been with the franchise since his rookie season. He was a free agent. He went to a divisional rival, the Milwaukee Bucks. So he got out of Dodge. So you kind of look at their roster and it's like, okay, who's going to lead this team? Like, your veteran presence is gone. Your all-star point guard essentially is out, and he's been clutch city the entire postseason run last year. Like, who's going to step up for the Pacers? I really don't see them going that far next year. I just, because I have that question, like, who's going to lead the team? So those are the points of this NBA season I want you to take note of is Kevin Durant with the Rockets, Cooper Flagg's rookie year / Doncic with the Lakers, and then who's going to lead the Pacers? Don't know. That's why we play the games, all 82. I think there's 82 in the entire season. Yeah, we'll just go with that. So that is the preview of the NBA. Now, I wanted to give you my predictions on who I think is going to win in the respective divisions. So in each conference of the NBA, there's 3 divisions, each containing 5 teams. And you'll see on the side of the screen here last year's final, like where each team placed, essentially. Okay. I'm just going to kind of give you my prediction on who's going to win per conference, or excuse me, per division, and then also a dark horse to keep an eye on that could play spoiler, if you will. Okay. So in the Eastern Conference, the Atlantic Division, I have the Boston Celtics. I don't see them taking a step back from last season. They did very, very good. They were the second team or the second seed, and they lost to a divisional opponent of the Knicks. Now, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, those guys are just ballers, and they got a really good core. So I don't see the Boston Celtics taking a step back this season. I just see them being consistent, and it's their division to lose, essentially. Now, the Central Division, the Cleveland Cavaliers, I have a feeling they're just going to run the table with that. Milwaukee I can see them making some noise, and even the Pistons. The Pistons made it to the playoffs last year, but I feel with Donovan Mitchell still being his all-star caliber dude, with Darius Garland, Jared Allen, and Evan Mobley, they just got Lonzo Ball from the Bulls, and if he stays healthy, who knows? Like, I feel that the Cavaliers will have a very strong season, and I think this is a do or die for them, because I don't see Donovan staying longer with the Cavs, or it just feels like their window is really starting to close. Ever since Donovan made it to the Cavs, like from Utah, they've made it to the postseason, but they haven't been to an Eastern Conference Finals yet, and so let alone an NBA Finals. So I feel like this is the year they're going to do everything they can to like make it. So we'll see what happens. And the Southeast Division, I feel is the weakest division out of the entire conference, but it's the Heat. I think the Heat will definitely win that one. Orlando made it into the play-in along with the Heat. So, yeah, I mean, I really think the Heat's going to usurp Orlando in this category. I think it's their division to lose, but you got the Hornets in there that are still rebuilding. They're really not that good. And then the Wizards had the worst record in the conference last year. So it's like, it's the Heat's. I have them winning the Southeast. But my dark horse, I already mentioned them earlier, is the Knicks. The reason why I don't have the Knicks winning the Atlantic Division is because I don't see them running the table like I do with the Celtics. I think the Knicks are still going to be a very, very strong team with Karl Anthony Towns, Cat for short, and Jalen Brunson is an absolute baller. Yeah, they're my dark horse. Milwaukee may flirt with that. I just don't know how that will work out, but definitely the Knicks is my dark horse. Now, Western Conference. Northwest Division, Oklahoma City Thunder. Like, it's they're the defending champs. SGA is the reigning MVP. Like, they are poised to possibly repeat as champions. The first, actually, if they do repeat in the last 7-8 years, we haven't had a repeated NBA champion, which is great for the league, in my opinion. But it's their division to lose. Pacific Division is the Lakers. I chose the Lakers over the Warriors just because I feel the Lakers with Doncic running at the helm and seeing how fit that dude is. It's like him and LeBron. I have a good feeling that they're going to have a very solid season. Hopefully LeBron stays healthy in that regard, but it's definitely the Lakers. I think they're going to win or be the top dog in the division. Finally, the Southwest is the Rockets. I went into great detail of their roster. I feel the Rockets are going to be very, very good. The Spurs, the Mavericks, they're in the same division. Like, I think they'll make some noise, but not enough noise where the Rockets are really going to run the table. But my dark horse is the Timberwolves. Like, the Timberwolves has this guy named Anthony Edwards. He is very, very good. I just don't see them winning the division. Okay. Especially with the Thunder in their division. It's kind of unfair, but at the same time, they're the ones that I have a feeling they're going to do very, very well this year. They may be like that 4th, 5th seed, and I think they will go far. The Clippers, who knows about the Clippers, man? Like, I have them in parentheses on my notes just because, like, yeah, I don't know. But those are my 8 teams, okay? I just disregard the Clippers. Atlantic Division is going to be the Celtics. Central is the Cavs. Southeast is the Heat, with my dark horse as the Knicks. Now, for the Northwest is the Thunder. Pacific, Lakers. Rockets, Southwest, and then my dark horse is the Timberwolves. Okay, so tell me, what's going to be your team out of the respective conference? Who do you think is going to do very, very well this year? Let me know in the comments. That'd be awesome. Okay, going to our next bracket, our third bracket. I love brackets. I actually just worked on this yesterday. So that is the MLS. Oh, it's a pretty bracket. Here, I'll make it nice and large. All right, so we have the MLS. Let's go. Decision day was last Saturday, and if you follow MLS, you know Decision day is the last match day of the season. Of all 34 games have been played, and they call it Decision day because we see the table, how it's all laid out. Okay, now I'm not gonna kind of like go into this and be like, okay, this is who I think is going to win throughout the entire MLS Cup. One is because I don't want to do that, but two, I haven't really watched that much MLS this year as I had liked to, just because of how life just played out. But I wanted to point out two things. One, just how the bracket is set, and then how the tournament is played. So that way, when you do tune in and watch the MLS, you'll at least understand what is happening. Okay, so the first thing I'll do is talk about is last year's bracket. So last year's bracket, the LA Galaxy won their sixth MLS Cup, the most in the entire league, and they defeated the New York Red Bulls. And as you can see in the bracket, neither of those two teams made it to the postseason. In fact, the LA Galaxy had a championship hangover, essentially, and they finished 14th out of 15 out of the Western Conference. So they had a tough year. Whereas New York Red Bulls, they finished 10th. And as you can see on the bracket, you only go from 1 to 9. So they just missed the postseason, okay? Which I think is fine because that gives a brand new slate of teams to make it to the MLS Cup, okay? Now, one thing you also hear when you hear about the MLS is the Supporters Shield. Now, the Supporters Shield is the best regular season record when it comes to points. So they do a point system, a win is 3 points, a tie is 1 point. And so based off on that point system, the Philadelphia Union had won this year's Supporters Shield, barely beating out Cincinnati FC by 1 point. So respectively, Philly on the Eastern Conference, Philly is ranked number 1, and then the second seed is for Cincinnati FC. Okay. Now, how are these games are going to be played out? We have the first game is a wild card round. Now, the wild card round is a single elimination. In traditional soccer games, you have 90 minutes of regulation, so 2 45-minute halves. Then you have extra time if it's tied. You have 2 15-minute extra periods where you would play both periods, okay? Even if a team scores, the game still continues. If it's still tied at the end of regulation, or better yet, end of extra time with stoppage, you would go into a penalty shootout, okay? With that laid out as what is regulated as a regular season, if it is tied in regulation, you don't do extra time. You go straight into penalty shootout, okay? So that way, just get the game over with a penalty shootout, which I think is great because it's way more exciting. The first round, and this happens the only time in the tournament, the first round is a best of 3 series, okay? So you look at the table, all the teams that are matched up, you will have the higher seed team host the first game, then the lower seed will host the second, and then if necessary, the third game will be hosted by the higher seed. There's no ties, there's no aggregate. There's also, like, if it's tied in regulation, just like in the wild card round, you go straight into penalties, okay? I don't know why they do that in the first round. Maybe it's just to give these teams a chance to, go into the next rounds, because the subsequent rounds, conference semifinals, conference finals, and then MLS Cup are all single elimination. It's just one game, single elimination. So I think it's kind of fun that they do it like that, but those single eliminations, if it is tied at the end of regulation, then you will do the 2 extra times of 15 minutes, and then you go into penalties, okay? So all that to say is it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I'm looking at the table right now, and the one matchup that I'm really excited to watch is in the Eastern Conference, number 2, Cincinnati FC versus number 7 Columbus Crew. This is a rival. Both teams really don't like each other, and they play very chippy against each other. And Columbus is actually, they were the champions 2 seasons ago, and they got bounced out in the first round. So I see there's a little bit of redemption there. But Cincinnati is still trying to get their first MLS Cup title, and they have a very solid squad, like a really, really good squad. So I'm really excited to watch that particular matchup in the first round. Okay. But yeah, let me know in the comments below. Let me know who do you see, or who are you trying to pull for this year's MLS Cup. It's going to be great because the MLS Cup ends on December 6th, I believe. That's a long time from now, where this recording is in where this recording is October 21st, going all the way to December. That's a very long postseason. So I'm excited for that. Okay, so now we go into our questions, and we have 3 today, which is fun. Our first one is from Suhasu8560, and this is from last week's episode. So yeah, please, again, any questions you have on any of these kinds of show videos, please let me know in the comments. So Suhasu asks, thanks for the video. You're welcome. Just a silly question. What is the Big Ten Conference, and why are colleges ranked by a poll and not by their win-loss records? Excellent question. So the Big Ten Conference, and I created this this fun little map or diagram, if you will, that shows all of the schools within the conference. And so the Big Ten Conference is essentially schools that are in the Midwest / like Pennsylvania all the way over to Minnesota, Illinois, that area. Okay. And I'll actually enlarge it so you can see it better. So on the far left of this graph, you'll have 14 different schools. That's the Big Ten. Okay. Big Ten has been around for quite some time and has expanded over the years. Penn State actually was acquired in I think it was like the mid to late 80s. I don't remember specifically. But it seems like as the years progressed, they expanded and expanded. Rutgers was recently added in the last 15 years or so. And then the biggest acquisition was 4 schools out of the Pac-12, which was USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington. So now this massive conference expands from all the way over to New Jersey, where Rutgers is located, all the way across to the northwest part of Washington, which is Seattle, to the south where on the Pacific coast of UCLA and USC and LA. So it is a vast conference of schools. That's the Big Ten. Now, not every school is part of that conference. Like, there are some schools that will play in different sports of different conferences. It's very confusing. But as far as football is concerned, since that's what we were talking about last week, about Penn State's great fall, that's the first question answered. The reason why it is ranked by a poll is because there's over 150 schools that have a football program. And as you can look on the screen here, I have the other Power 4 conferences listed. You have the Big 12, which is kind of like in the middle part of the country, the SEC or Southeastern Conference, which is in the Southeast. So like where Florida is all the way over to Louisiana, like that entire belt over there. And then you have the Atlantic Coast Conference, which is essentially the original 13 colonies, as I like to say it. The Pac-12 is in a rebuild. They're the ones that kind of dissolved with 2 schools left, so I'm not really going to talk about them. But those are like the Power 4 conferences that equate to college football. Not every one of these teams are going to play each other, which would make sense if you're in a league, right, where the NFL, honestly, the NFL doesn't play everybody, but like the NBA does, the NHL does, they all play each other. So it's easy to be like, okay, based off of these matchups, this is how you are ranked. Football doesn't have that luxury. You only play so many games a season, right? So what these pollers do is that they look at, based off of like the talent of the squad, their previous years, based on the preseason polling, they look at your wins, they look at your losses, and not every loss is the same as other losses, okay? But then they also look at who you beat, right? if a team that is like 5-0, but they haven't played a team that has been ranked in the top, let's say 20, would not get a very, very high ranking in the polls at large because they haven't beat anybody. Likewise, if someone loses to somebody that is very highly ranked and they're also highly ranked, a great example of this is Texas. Texas was ranked number 1 in the country in week 1, but they lost to Ohio State, was like, I think, ranked 3rd. They didn't drop so far in the polls because they lost to a fellow top 5 ranked opponent at their place by 1 to 2 possession score. So that's why polling looks at, okay, who did you lose to? And then how bad did you lose? Did you lose at home? Did you lose away? Because if you lost away, then we'll give you grace on that. It is a weird system. I'm not going to lie. It's not as cut and dry like you would in a league, if you will. But that's the best we got. But to answer your question, that's the reason why. As the season progresses, usually after like week 10, I think is when you really get a better engagement on like, okay, these are the teams that they beat. These are the teams that they're going to face. Like that's where the rankings would be very, very well put together, if you will. Okay, so great question. Thank you for that. Moving on to the next one. We have Red Funda from the Baseball Rules Explained video. Red Funda asks, what if the defenders can't never take out the hitters? Will the game drag on as long as possible? So what they're asking is like when batters come up to hit, you need to get 3 outs. If the defense can't get them out, do the batters keep going and going and going? Yes. It's very embarrassing as the fielding team if you can't get the 3 outs. It has happened in the past. I can't think off the top of my head on the exact example, but I'm sure if you look through the history books, you would see, yeah, there was about 25 batters during this one inning because they couldn't get them out. And the runs are just like, XYZ, how many runs there were. It's very embarrassing, but yeah, it happens. And it's not fun. It's not fun, especially as a defense. So yeah, you just keep on going until you get your 3 outs or you forfeit, I guess, which nobody wants to do. Thank you for that, though. Great question. And then the last one comes out of the American Football Rules Explained video by T6-30. Gotta love these handles, man. Their question involves around the controversial pass interference. So pass interference makes little sense to me. I don't blame you. I feel like preventing the receiver from catching the ball is the whole point of the defense, but you're not allowed to do it. So are you supposed to stand around and wait until they catch the ball before you can tackle them? Thank you for your question. And you're not alone in this. Pass interference is probably the most controversial call that gets a lot of like discourse with when it comes to sports in football. To answer your question, your goal as a defender is to play the ball, not the person. Okay. And what that means is that if you are covering the wide receiver and you turn your attention from the wide receiver to the ball and play for the ball, then that's not pass interference. Because at that point, you and the receiver are both going up for a 50-50 ball. Even if there is contact being made, not aggressive contact where you elbow the person to try to get the ball. If your both hands are going for the ball, essentially, then that's not going to be pass interference. Far too often when PI is called, it's because the defender has their full intention on the receiver, where they're not turning their head or they're not playing for the ball. Instead, they're playing by trying to prohibit the receiver's hands or body or something where they're not playing the ball, they're playing the person. That's when it's going to be a PI called all the time. Now, if really good defenders, what they'll do is like if they're running in step, or better yet, if they're behind the defender and they reach over and hit the ball down, like that is great defense, and that will never get called for pass interference. Now, the tugging of the jerseys, the pushing and shoving, like that's just part of the game, and You'll see sometimes refs will call that, depending, it's very subjective. But at the end of the day, as long as you're playing for the ball and not the person, then it's not going to be pass interference. So no, you don't want to stand around and wait till they catch the ball, because if you do that, then you will never stop progression of them getting farther down the road on scoring. Okay. So thank you for your questions. Again, feel free to ask any questions that you have on any of the videos that I've done in the past when it comes to Sports 101 or at large, or go ahead and ask your questions in the comments below of this episode. Okay. So thank you for those 3 comments. All right. So kind of what's coming up next, still working on that ebook, that MLB Champions ebook. It's a grind. I got all the way up to 1999 and it's over 100 pages long. It has so much content. It's ridiculous, but I'm hoping that the World Series go to full 7 games to give me more time on it, honestly. But if that doesn't happen, I'll still post the updated World Series video that will come with that. And and then that ebook will be available for you to have online once it's done. And yeah, it just like the NBA and the Super Bowl versions out there that you can get today, there's just a lot of content, and it's great. It's great. Like, it's really, really nice. So that's what's coming up on the slate of what's next. But to close this episode of today, I hope when you watch the World Series that the batting average isn't going to be too hard to understand. It's actually a great metric to look at, especially when you watch the World Series, which is this Friday, Game 1. Can't wait. Let's go ahead. Let's predict. Who do I see winning? Who I want to win is the Blue Jays. They haven't won since '94, but if I would put money on it, I would say the Dodgers will win in 4 games, 4-2. So that is my prediction. The Dodgers are going to win 4-2. We'll see if that plays out. But yeah, the World Cup, the MLS wild card starts tomorrow. Can't wait for that. And then the NBA tips off tonight. Let's go on NBC. Yes, let's do this. Let's go. But yeah, the NBA season is officially here. So catch the Lurks Lessons Show on YouTube and on Spotify, and happy learning, and I will see you next week.